So Chris, you have recorded the voting members and we have a quorum, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I will open the floor for a public audience.
I'm just going to start the recording here.
Certainly. Thanks.
Oops.
Nope. That's it.
There we go.
Perfect. Thanks.
And I'm adding Joe Daly here.
Excellent. Thank you. All right.
We have quite a large group tonight.
We do. It's exciting. Do we have anyone who would like to speak for public audience? All right. In that case, I'm going to move to approval of the February minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our February 2026 regular meeting as submitted?
My motion.
Motion to approve.
Certainly, Brian. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you, Baird. That was the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? No. All right. Excellent. The minutes are approved as recorded. And I want to just briefly recognize, because we do have some folks who are joining that are new faces. So bear with me one moment. I want to confirm. So I believe we have Mike Scorso joining us tonight from Economic Development Commission. We are also welcoming our new at-large member, Sean McLaughlin. Thank you. Sean, did I do that right? McLaughlin, the hard. Excellent. And then we do have our special guests, which we are very pleased tonight to be joined by Peter Millman of PACE and a few other folks that I think Peter has brought with him tonight regarding a thermal energy network presentation. So Peter, I will turn the floor over to you.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us and letting us take up so much of your time this evening. I would recognize Debbie New, who is from Vermont and started an organization called Vermont Community Thermal Networks. She has about a 3-year start ahead of our initiative at PACE, 10-4CT, which is Thermal Energy Networks for Connecticut. And so I definitely look to her for guidance and wisdom, and she provides both in spades. So let me share my screen and just get on with this. Okay. And
is it sharing?
I'm having trouble finding. Let me just go back and find. Okay, I see what happened. I lost the screen that I wanted to share. So let me just see whether I can do that now. Hold on. I need to I need to start again here. Okay, now I'm going to try and share again.
I'm still double checking. I have everyone written down.
Okay, here is what I wanted to share. And I'm going to go into slideshow mode and get started. So what I'm here to talk about tonight is thermal energy networks, and that takes in a lot of territory. We're not going to cover it all. I'm going to give you an introduction to what thermal energy networks are, a little bit about the scene here in Connecticut, both from a regulatory point of view and a couple of case studies, both here and in Connecticut, but also from other parts of the country. And then I'm going to pivot into what you might do, what Simsbury might do if it decided that it was interested in thermal energy networks. And we'll get on to that later. So I'll just say that we're all about for me, about 3 years ago, Let me see if I can get this to move. Just a little bit about me. I've had the pleasure of working with Mark Scully and Bernie Pelletier at PACE, People's Action for Clean Energy, for probably close to 9 years now. And I have worked on a number of issues, but about 2 or 3 years ago, I became really interested in thermal energy networks, which has a lot of interest in Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and many other states. Colorado is quite interested in developing them. And so it just has caught my interest. I think it's a really important issue because we have a big problem in Connecticut. We burn too much gas and oil to heat our homes, and thermal energy networks are a big solution to that big problem. A little bit about 10-4CT. It's an initiative of PACE to promote thermal energy networks and also individual ground source heat pump buildings, geothermal heat and cooled buildings. But we also formed this summer to support the funding of the Connecticut Thermal Energy Network Grant and Loan Program. A little bit more on that later. 10-4CT convenes monthly with meetings that are essentially webinars. We invite speakers. We gather useful resources at our website, including recordings of all the past meetings, which I think have been 8. If you would like to get on our email list, I'd be glad to put you on. Just send an email to me or something like that. And then we have pivoted recently to deciding that if communities want to do something, they need to form, that we want to help communities form community thermal energy network working groups. So here I'm going to give you an introduction by using this 3.5-minute video so that we can skip a bunch of slides if it plays. But I think this is better than my talking about it. So I'm going to give this a shot and see whether it works.
Mm-hmm. Here in Vermont, heat is a precious resource. We put a lot of time and effort into staying warm in the winter. And we pour a lot of energy and money into making, moving, and saving heat. Meanwhile, all kinds of heat is available for us to capture, move, and share to keep our homes and communities warm. This heat is right under our feet, not far underground where the sun's energy warms the earth to a constant temperature. It's also venting from large buildings like hospitals and hotels, from grocery stores, ice arenas, factories, and breweries. And it's flowing down drains and out of our buildings, carried in the water we warm up and use every day. Luckily, it's not hard to recover that heat and reuse it in thermal energy networks. We can find the temperature we need underground at about the depth of a water well. We can also harness it from building ventilation or wastewater. This thermal energy is carried to our homes and businesses by water and a network of pipes. Vertical pipes access heat from underground and return unwanted heat to the earth to be stored as needed. Horizontal pipes not only share heat between buildings, they also capture the heat that's venting from buildings and flowing in wastewater systems, adding it to the network. These pipes form closed loops that move heat where it's needed. Inside, a ground source heat pump amplifies that temperature for heating and hot water. In the summer, the heat pump ejects heat back underground to make buildings cooler, storing that heat for next winter. Making thermal energy networks more efficient and cost-effective. An ice rink in Vancouver provides heat and hot water to nearby buildings, the equivalent of 43 homes, by sharing heat that's removed during the freezing process. Maintaining the ice rink is now 2 to 3 times more efficient and dramatically reduces fossil fuel use. Another neighborhood in Vancouver is cutting greenhouse gas emissions from buildings in half and meeting about 70% of its heating and cooling needs by recovering heat from a wastewater treatment plant. Lake Louise Inn has cut its propane use by 60% by using wastewater to offset how the resort heats hot water for laundry and guest services. Thermal energy networks are community infrastructure, much like water and sewer systems. We have familiar ways to provide these services that also apply to delivering clean heating and cooling. Thermal energy networks also complement other clean energy solutions. Many Vermont
Peter, I think we might have lost the audio.
I'm sorry, what?
access and afford clean energy. And we can pair thermal networks with solar to supply local clean electricity to run the system. Experts in clean energy, finance, policy, and planning are working with state and local leaders, businesses, and community members to implement thermal energy networks and help more Vermonters across our state access affordable, reliable heating and cooling.
So I hope you were able to hear that.
Yes, the audio cut out just for a few moments here and there, but I think overall it was very
Well,
clear.
I'm sorry about that. That must be my internet.
No worries.
So let me move on to the next slide. I'm going to skip the next three slides. They have variations, but in the interest of time, that video covers much of this. The one thing I'll take from this slide is that there is more than one type of thermal energy network. And if you get into this more, you may see things that look a little bit different from what I just showed. Why should we care? Reductions in greenhouse gases.
I'm so
better
sorry to
health.
interrupt. I believe the slides are not advancing at the moment. We're
They're
still
not
on
advancing?
No,
Okay.
we're still on the slide with the video. You might have to stop sharing and reshare.
Okay, let's see here.
So sorry.
No, no problem. Can you see that? Why should we care about thermal energy networks?
No.
I personally don't.
Okay, let me do this and yes. Okay, how does that look to you? Oh, wait a minute, you're seeing my, that's the wrong thing. Let me go back to here. You should be able to see that.
We see it now. Why should we care? We see it.
Okay, why should we care? As we reduce greenhouse gases, better air quality because of reduced pollutants, more affordable heating and cooling systems, more on that later, and combining heating and cooling, etc. And the video made this point. I don't really need to say it again. Just let me tell you a little bit about the Connecticut Thermal Energy Network Grant and Loan Program. So this was a program that was established last year by the legislature in SB4, and it was to promote community thermal energy networks. It's similar to a grant programs in Massachusetts and Colorado that have been in place for 2 or 3 years at least. It will be administered by DEEP once it's funded, and it has not been. The purpose will be to provide municipalities, although could be nonprofits or tribes, with funds to do feasibility planning studies, matching grants or matching funds, and pay for infrastructure costs. But again, this has not been funded, so it's not really up and running yet. I just want to give you a sense that thermal energy networks of one type or another already exist. There are dozens and dozens and dozens, really well over 100 in, I think, close to 150 in the United States. The Building Decarbonization Coalition has the best handle on this, and this is just a map, a part of the United States that they put together. There's one of the types of thermal energy networks from a certain, who led it. This is utility-led, pretty well-known project called the Framingham Thermal Energy Network Pilot. It was built and is being operated by Eversource in Massachusetts. It was approved by their Department of Public Utility in 2020. It got under construction in 2023, began operating in 2024, and now it's being tested and evaluated. But it's working well enough that I think it was Eversource went and got additional funding, and they're going to extend this out, expand this thermal network. That map that you're seeing, it's about a 1 mile loop, serves 140 customers, 37 buildings, 24 residential homes, a fire station, a gas station, I think a carpentry or a furniture business, and multiple Framingham Housing Authority units. There is a really good video on the Eversource Framingham pilot website that is a drive around that 1 mile loop. It's well worth watching. Connecticut has some thermal energy networks. This one is under construction in New Haven. It's the Union Station redevelopment project. It's going to connect a redeveloped Union Station with a parcel of land across the street, which is being developed with, I think, close to 1,000 housing units and many commercial spaces. And the test spores have just been completed, and they are moving on. Yale is building a thermal energy network on Science Hill. Just by the way, the woman who in charge of this gave a really great presentation last Thursday at our 10-4 CT webinar. It's really interesting, and the point here is really that this is happening. It's not theoretical. It's a very well-established technology. It's mostly been, a large number of these have been built on college campuses and other campuses because there is simply one owner, lots of buildings close together, one owner. This is at the University of Massachusetts. In Amherst, they have an existing system that they're expanding, and it includes both new buildings and existing buildings. Here's another campus, lots of buildings close together. Epic Systems Corporation, which I believe is a company that deals with medical records. It's in Wisconsin, and this has been in operation, I think, since about 2014. Here is West Union, Iowa, which is a small town in Iowa. Back in 2010, when they were considering how to redevelop their downtown, they thought of, I think that they saw a grant having to do with thermal energy networks, and they went for that. They incorporated that into their planning and construction. And in 2014, it started operating. And by all reports, it's really successful. It's providing lower cost and more resilient heating and cooling to these buildings than otherwise would have taken place. New construction is a great time to be thinking about thermal energy networks or geothermal. Here are 10 buildings that are linked together. It's called the Heights in St. Paul, Minnesota. It's drawing on an aquifer that's below the site and beyond to get a thermal energy boost. And as you can see, it as the video said, it pairs well with solar, for example. A little bit about the finances, the financial proposition of thermal energy networks. Here's a slide from the Office of the Colorado Energy Office. And Colorado has had an extensive program of funding feasibility studies for thermal energy networks, also for electricity generation, but that's the West. It's not happening here yet, at least. And here's one example of what their studies have been showing. So here's a proposed 1,100 home community called Brown Ranch. And the study showed that the upfront costs were nearly double for a geothermal system as opposed to other options. But the community would realize $100 million of savings over the next 30 years compared to traditional or all-electric approach, with a return on investment of 10 years. And their further point is that upfront costs can be further reduced, perhaps by half, through the existing and continuing to exist in IRA federal incentives, the investment tax credit. And none of this takes into account that the state is developing state incentives, and these are not factored in. So a little bit more on this. Are thermal energy networks financially viable? It depends. They generally have higher upfront costs, but much lower operating costs. They're very efficient systems, much more efficient than any fossil fuel system, more efficient than air source heat pumps in individual buildings, and more efficient than even ground source heat pumps for individual buildings. They reduce the use of electricity because they're so efficient. They put less stress on the grid, and they have the opportunity to lower peak demand, which is a major driver of the cost of electricity in New England and elsewhere. Part of what a network's finances depends on is new construction versus existing buildings. You can definitely include existing buildings, but a bit of new construction helps because they're going to be putting in infrastructure anyways. They're going to be building an internal heating and cooling distribution system anyways. There's a whole issue about existing buildings often being used to getting, particularly older, really old buildings, being used to getting 180-degree water, whereas a moderate temperature, very highly efficient geothermal system will probably be providing buildings with 130-degree water, but that is all manageable. As I say, coordination with new development or infrastructure is a good way to lower the upfront cost of a network. The investment tax credit continues and can provide financing or a credit for 6 to 50% of the geothermal system. In Connecticut, Eversource has its own geothermal incentives, which are funded, by the way, by ratepayers. And as time goes on, technology, finance, and regulatory innovations are likely to reduce costs. It's also thought, and I do think this, that nonprofit ownership can reduce costs as opposed to utility ownership. So that's an introduction to thermal energy networks, just a little bit. And now I'd like to pivot to talking about forming a thermal energy network working group, which some towns are already doing, at least taking baby steps in that direction. And what it's all about, what a working group's work would be about, is really looking for opportunities. So let me give you one example, a tangible example of what looking for opportunities can sometimes find. So here in Manchester, they are right now building a public library that's net zero, grid interactive. And here's something interesting, 10 ready, thermal energy network ready. This is largely due to the work of Chris Till, who's the facility project manager for the town of Manchester. I'm sure he has lots of support within town government, but I think that this is largely his baby. He also oversaw the construction of 3 net zero schools in Manchester. So that's an individual building. And if you look over to the right, that yellow shape is the library. And Chris noticed that there were lots of other municipal buildings up and down Main Street. There were also older private buildings. And there were also plans to build some new buildings along there. And he recognized that this is an opportunity that should not be missed. He also knew that that whole Main Street, the pavement of that whole Main Street, is going to be torn up sometime in the near future. not months from now, but a few years from now, to do a street redevelopment, perhaps a complete streets kind of redesign. And that, when that pavement is pulled up, that is an excellent time to put in an already planned for thermal energy network, to put the pipes in the ground to that will become the shared thermal loop. So he has the opportunity, Manchester has the opportunity to do this by looking for the opportunity. So a little more about forming a thermal energy network working group. One reason to consider this is that it's a way to get a head start on securing, really being ready for a Connecticut Thermal Energy Network grant and loan award. I don't know how much those awards will be because the money hasn't been allocated. There's a lot of difference, for example, between Massachusetts and Colorado. But I think that a town that has started to think about this, started to go up the learning curve, starting to gain support from various stakeholders, will be in a much better position to use future grant money effectively. Part of what a working group would do is to reach out to elected officials and town staff, sustainability and clean energy advocates. So you've already started, in a sense, here. Environmental justice organizations, and eventually building owners. So what would this working group do? And the answer comes from a guide that Debbie knew and Jared Rodriguez wrote, called How to Develop a Thermal Energy Network. And I'm going to give you a short introduction to that. And then I'm going to move on to another thing to consider doing, is hosting a workshop that Debbie and Jared could give. I just want to note that some other towns have already started, from talking to me, from coming to the 10-4 CT monthly meetings. I have not done a huge amount of outreach, just a little, but there's a lot of, I think a lot more towns will be interested. In Brantford, the municipality has already sort of bought in at the staff and elected officials level, and they're talking to building owners for a site that they have begun to identify. In New Haven, some Yale students and local energy advocates are talking and have identified a big building project, an existing building that's going to be completely renovated, and some grant opportunities there. Wyndham is really working on this. I gave a presentation, and they are, the town manager has talked about he's going to be using town staff to start to look for those opportunities. In West Hartford, the Sustainability Committee has started work on this. In Hartford, a small group has started 10-4 Hartford, an affiliate of 10-4 CT. East Haddam approached me about doing a presentation, which I gave because they have some new projects coming up, and they thought maybe this is the time to look at thermal energy networks. And Groton Utilities is at the staff discussion level. So these are nascent. Everybody's taking baby steps here, except for maybe Brantford and Wyndham. If Simsbury decided to create a working group, it would have its own character and do things in its own way. So as I mentioned, this is an excellent guide that Debbie and Jared put together. It's very accessible. You don't have to be an engineer to use this. How to develop a thermal energy network. And it's really exactly what it says, a practical guide to adding thermal energy networks to decarbonization plans for your community. Just want to give a shout out to Jared and Debbie. So one of the things I really like about this guide, which is total 80 pages, maybe 40 of the main body, and then there are some extra resources for the last 40 pages, is that it offers concrete steps, and they're graduated steps, starting easy at first and getting a little more challenging as time goes on, but well within the expertise range of many, most members of most sustainability committees. So it starts off, the point here is to jumpstart your thinking on where and when to build a thermal energy network. I'm not going to go through all of these, just sort of the main headings in bold. But they're asking, is your community updating or intending to update its energy plan, comprehensive plan, or zoning code? If yes, it's a good time to begin to insert thinking about thermal energy network opportunities. Does your community have a wastewater treatment plan? If I had to bet you're probably part of the metropolitan district. I think that you do, but I don't know. But if yes, wastewater or sewer mains can be an excellent source of thermal energy, which can increase the efficiency of a shared thermal loop that heat pumps are drawing heat out of or focusing heat from. Does your community have a potable water system? Same thing, source of heat. Are street openings planned or for other infrastructure work? In the case of Manchester, the answer was yes, and it's a way to save money in upfront costs. Are new buildings, mixed use, or housing developments in the early stages of planning? Yes, and I happen to know this is true. I mean, it's true in many places, but by talking to Mark, I know that it's true in Simsbury. Does your community have access to open land that could contain a geothermal borehole? And that includes parking lots and recreation fields, which can be replanted. Does your community include potential thermal energy resources? And almost every municipality does. I happen to know from Mark that you have an ice arena, which throws off a lot of heat that's probably just wasted. But even a grocery store is throwing off lots of heat. And then there's manufacturing facilities, industrial facilities. There's really a lot of thermal energy around us, and we mostly don't see it, and we mostly waste it. And once you start with that, which is just a first step, then the guide provides more, goes into more detail and helps you to inventory thermal energy resources, potential thermal energy buildings, and then do some simple mapping of where these, what's the relationship of these to each other? Are they too far from each other? Which buildings are too far from other buildings to perhaps be financially viable as parts of a network? Identifying upcoming development projects is really important. This can be, and this would be an ongoing exercise. You want to let your COG know about what you're thinking. They can bring perhaps some expertise to bear, but there's a lot to be gained from integrating your plans into their plans and vice versa. And another benefit of doing this is to begin to note if you have an identified site or two sites, then you can pay attention to facilitating the retrofitting of buildings along the potential 10 route. As I said, there's another route here, and sometime I haven't coordinated this with Debbie very well, but I'll let her talk more shortly. But another thing that you can do, and perhaps the best thing you can do, is to consider hosting a community workshop. The point is to build a diverse community coalition that is ready and able to meet the challenges of developing a network. It just can't be a tiny group of people. It needs to have wider buy-in, larger number of and diverse stakeholders to really see projects through to the end. The workshops would be facilitated by Jared Rodriguez and Debbie New, who wrote that guide. PACE is seeking funds right now. I submitted a grant proposal last Friday, the first, and to try to fund these workshops. I have to tell you, some communities don't want to wait. They're exploring a mix of local grants and self-funding to pay for the workshops. And rather than talk a lot more about this, I thought words that photos would tell the story better than I can. So that's Jared Rodriguez up there, and the idea is to convene a variety of stakeholders. Here's Jared speaking to a building owner, probably describing why it might make sense for this building owner to become part of a future network. And maps definitely play a role. You're not going to do this, at least not first, all over a town. There's going to be intersections, probably town centers, where this takes place after you've done the mapping exercises. Jared and Debbie have written a proposal. Both describes what these workshops would be. I'm happy to share this with you. If you don't miss this part. Our approach, which through videos and text, really can give you a good sense of what the workshops are like. And I think with that, I've spoken enough. And before questions, I want to give Debbie some time to chime in on all of this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Debbie, are you?
Yeah, I'm here, and I apologize for my voice. I'm just getting over some laryngitis, but I'm really glad to be here with you. And I guess if I just said a couple things about the workshops, I would say that number one, the guide that Peter mentioned is really the foundation for the workshops. So if you're looking through a 40 to 80 page guide, you might find that overwhelming. And what we've been doing in Vermont is really moving away from using that guide and have it inform the workshops. So a lot of the education discussion that we do is in person and very community based. The guide is a good introduction to the kinds of things that we address in a workshop. And certainly you can use parts of it on your own and learn more through the guide. One of the things that I really like about doing workshops is that it starts with how people think about heat. And we talk about heat as a precious resource, as the video mentioned. And we collect people's experiences of how heat can be very costly, but it's also necessary. So that's sort of the way the workshops start, is by thinking about heat and the resources that we already have. We then move into talking about community priorities. So we don't start out by saying, here's a thermal energy network, and this is what you should do, and here are the steps. We talk about your community and what has happened there, what's happening now, and what the community is planning or hoping to accomplish. So we collect, I guess I would say, local knowledge and use that to inform how we proceed with the workshop and what we're looking for when we go to large maps, 2-foot by 3-foot maps, to identify where the thermal energy resources are and what buildings might be nearby that could use those thermal energy resources, whether it's waste heat or heat recovered from wastewater or a geothermal bore field. There are other things like thermal storage and solar that can be included, but we pretty much look at those three things. I think it's really important to start with what the community values and how they think about themselves and what they've done in the past that they're proud of, big projects they've undertaken, because sometimes people think about communities as not being able to do big things when actually they are set up to do very big things like water and sewer systems. And this is very similar to water and sewer in that it's water and pipes that are connected to multiple buildings and serving many buildings at once. So we look at what are the upcoming projects here and what might fit in, and how a thermal energy network is not an extra thing for the community to consider doing, but is something that could help other projects. For example, the tax incentives that Peter mentioned can be applied to construction trenching for water and sewer for a new housing development if there are thermal pipes laid at the same time. 30% tax incentive would cover all of that trenching to reach a new housing development. So it actually can lower construction costs and incentivize developers if you're using that tax incentive or thermal pipes that can also benefit the water and sewer that's needed. So that's one example of how a thermal energy network can help. More to say about that, but essentially a workshop concludes with people looking at maps together. And those conversations often go way beyond the ending of a workshop time. But we stay, we hang out, we answer people's questions, and people are really excited to talk about what they might be able to develop. So that's another fun part of a workshop, is experiencing the excitement that can be generated and the enthusiasm. So I feel like that's a really important step in terms of making a project successful, because when you get to a feasibility study, that's a large chunk of change, and you want to make sure that whatever you're spending that money on is likely to be a successful project because the community is behind it. So I'll just stop there, and I'd be happy to answer questions or hear what you all are thinking.
Before we open the floor for questions, I just want to thank you both very much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Debbie. This was really informative. Do we have anyone that wants to jump in with a question? Oh, go, Joe.
Do you ever see these networks deployed that are a mix of municipal and residential?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The Framingham project that Peter showed you is definitely some municipal buildings like the firehouse and residential. The New Haven, Connecticut project is the railroad station, which I'm not sure if that's municipal, but it's a government regional building, I'm assuming, and housing across the street, a lot of housing across the street. I think that it's a really wonderful opportunity to put together a municipal building or set of buildings with housing. I don't know what's happening in Connecticut, but in Vermont, we are desperate for new housing in all of our communities. So we need to build a lot more housing. And if we can at the same time lower the cost of or get rid of fossil fuels in our municipal buildings and lower energy costs by doing that, it's going to benefit everybody, not just a new housing development.
I would just add that in Manchester, that long Main Street, which Chris Till and others in Manchester are beginning to think about as a thermal energy network. It does have larger commercial buildings, older, both old, well, mostly old, new buildings, older municipal buildings. But behind, on either side of Main Street, there are neighborhoods with duplexes and single-family homes. And I believe that what will happen is that, as in Framingham, once you build the initial system, extending it becomes less expensive. You can build in capacity, for example. Mark.
What's the ideal length, or how long can a thermal energy network be, the loop?
How are you talking about time and how long?
No, the actual distance. How far apart can things be?
Oh, generally we say that more than a quarter of a mile between buildings is too far. It means that there could be heat loss and would take more money to invest in more pipes. So not as cost effective, not as energy efficient.
So let me just add to that and say, so that's how many, you need a certain level of density. And so that's the space between individual buildings. But a thermal energy network or loop can really go on quite a long ways. The Framingham one is a mile-long loop, and they're going to add to that. I have not seen plans for it. The organization in Massachusetts called HEAT, Home Energy Efficiency Team, which has really done extensive work on this with the help of people from MIT and Harvard and private consultants. They foresee doing this one neighborhood or district at a time. And once you have one, you can add to another. So there's not really a size limit, but there are density limits as to what makes it financially viable. Jamie.
Thank you. Curious about any sort of business studies that might exist, like the financial. You did kind of take us through some of the financial benefits or potential financial benefits of a model like this. I would love to see if there is data, whether it's Framingham or similar networks that have been up and running for some time, where you can say, okay, this is where, this was the investment level, this was the decrease in operating costs, this was the, et cetera. Like, just what is that financial case for a network like this? And if there's been any sort of case studies on that, that would be great to get our hands on. And then also, you mentioned in Connecticut, they're looking to really invest in this. You did say one of the upfront slides was it's not yet funded. So would this be state funding that is potentially becoming available, like through Green Bank, or can you just speak? So first, are there case studies available financially, and you don't have to drain them now, just send them? And second, what is the source of funding that might become available in Connecticut?
Let me just go at the first question first, and then go on to the grant and loan program and its non-funding, and then I'd be glad to hear what Debbie had to say.
Great, thank you.
But about the financial benefits, the financial case, I don't think that there are a lot of what we are talking about. I mean, the reason that Massachusetts and Colorado, and now Massachusetts, and I believe New Jersey, is trying to jumpstart this whole process, is that although thermal energy networks make financial sense when buildings are close together and there's one owner, it makes it easier, not necessarily more financial sense. And so that's why you see them increasingly being developed on college campuses, municipal campuses, hospital campuses, and business campuses. So that's one thing. People are building these things. And so that's one indication that they make sense. I just want to say another way to look at it is that through PACE's work, we've found over 109 commercial or institutional buildings that have geothermal systems, that is individual buildings. That's the same technology that is incorporated but made more efficient through networking that we're talking about. So Debbie has some on her website. If you really want to dig in, there's a terrific site about the financing of these. But sometimes I think about this as the technology is there and it works when one owner can control everything. But moving it from the college campuses to under the streets of our cities and towns is more of an organizational challenge. Although, remember, in some cases, the finances will work better than in other cases. Add in a bit of new development, that helps a lot. If you happen to have some thermal resources like a brewery or an ice rink or a big grocery store, all of that can work. you need a certain amount of density to work. Debbie, do you want to throw in anything else about that?
Sure. And I can put a link in the chat to a page on the Vermont Community Thermal Networks website that has some, they're not exactly case studies, but because they're 2 slides with some links to further information. But some of the examples that Peter mentioned are in there. And one of the issues with thermal energy networks, at least in this country so far, is that many of them are privately owned, which means data is not available on many components of the systems, not just the financing. And there are utilities that are working on developing these projects, and we don't know enough yet. The Framingham project has a Department of Energy grant to collect all kinds of data from the system, but I haven't seen any coming out yet. So hopefully we'll be able to see that. When there's an investor-owned utility involved, because they need to make enough for their shareholders, those systems are going to cost more than a municipal or cooperative or locally owned one. I can say that the West Union, Iowa system was funded several years ago entirely by grants, and they just keep lowering the costs for customers because that was their goal, is to save money. So rather than earning a return on the system, they're lowering costs for their customers constantly. So it's unfortunate that when you get into mechanical engineer things and financing for these, what we often hear is, it depends, which I think Peter mentioned earlier. It depends on the system, but I do think it's important for us to be able to share, and you can start with the link in the chat, some information.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. And then the source of financing?
Yeah, so
I should say not financing, but grants.
I just want to, yeah. So for the Connecticut Thermal Energy Grant and Loan Program, it was authorized that this can be created, this grant program, but it was not funded last year when it was created. From what I understand, the legislature does this all the time. So we're not really that discouraged by it, but coming up with money in these times, or maybe any time, particularly in these times, can be hard. There is a discussion of using some funds from, now this is going to get a little complex, but there is already an authorized bonding package authorized by the legislature for heat pump deployments, or to help more heat pumps. And there's a thought, and now that bonding package needs to be sent to the bonding commission by the governor. And it's thought that some part of that bonding package could be used to fund a Connecticut grant and loan program. We're definitely talking to DEEP and a little bit through DEEP to the governor's office. I can't tell you when that's going to happen, whether it will be this year or when. It's not really on a legislative schedule. So, but I want to be very clear about a point that the workshops, I think, create a basis, a social basis, a political basis, a stakeholder basis, a community basis for support and understanding. And it even does some of the technical work in saying, well, here are the elements of a thermal energy network. And it's really only after you do that work that spending money on hiring a consulting company to look at what the combined heat and cooling loads are and what the geological conditions are below the site, and where you would do boreholes, or whether you would tap into a sewer main. You only do that after you've done the first part that I think is best completed by doing a workshop.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Well, Peter and Debbie, thank you so much for your time today. We have this recording and the materials that you're leaving behind, which is super helpful. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us. And, there's a lot to take in here. If you would like to pursue this more in the future, Debbie and I would be glad to come back and maybe not take up your whole evening at that time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Excellent. And I see we have another guest that's joined, which is Mark's cat. Oh, hello, kitty. Excellent. Thank you. All right. I am pulling up our agenda just to keep us on track. All right. We are going to move into sustainability fair planning updates, which Baird, you did send me a document earlier. Do you want me to put that on the screen?
Please.
Okay. All right. So I will switch that out then. I should have done that first. Sorry.
So while you're pulling it up, Joe
Yes.
and Susan and Mark and I and many staff members from the library have been pulling together the sustainability fair this year on May 2nd. I hope you will all be available. We would love to have the crew that's often there and helping people to register and sign in. So if you don't have it in your book already, please put it in your book. We would love to have you. We've been, just because this is our third year doing this, we've gotten pretty good at reaching out to groups. And I think we have about 25 to 30 groups confirmed already, and another 5 to 10 that we're waiting on. Just a couple new things for this year. One is that Mark helped us to set up an event beforehand. We had talked about trying to do some lead up activities. So on April 27th, there's going to be activity on the state of EVs with the president of the EV Club of Connecticut, Barry Kresh. So that'll be on the 27th. And Tom Roy, I think, is going to be one of the panel members. And Steve Mitchell will be another panel member. So that's coming up on the 27th. So mark that if you could. We've also been enjoying this year. Last year, the Avon sustainability group supported us and did some wonderful work. This year, Bloomfield also is joining us, and they're adding quite a lot to the planning on this. So we've really enjoyed working with them. And they're bringing some different groups and organizations to this. And what else? I guess the new things, Mark was able to help us arrange for. Mark, what's the name of the bus that's coming or the van that's coming?
Oh, it's the Energize CT sort of mobile energy display.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it has a more formal name.
So it's got lots of hands-on things for people to help to understand clean energy in different ways, and really good for kids. Also, Stephanie Prado, who's the children's librarian, has connected with Our Farms, and I think there are going to be some farm animals roaming around the outside of the library, again, for kids. And so that's basically, we're in a good place. We're moving along well. Jamie and Chris, we do need to talk a little bit about money at some point. And just
we need an honorarium for somebody. Am I correct?
We need an honorarium for that. And I think, Joe, do you know what your budget is for the numbers at this point?
Yeah, well, I got those printed. That was $26.
Okay, great. Is that going to be all we need? Is the $26?
Well, yeah, for the signs and the banner.
Okay, good. Is there anything else you were planning on creating?
Well, yeah, but I don't have any costs or anything on that really.
Okay, great. So Jamie and Chris will be passing along a $26 bill also, if we can. So that's basically where we are. We're in a good place, and we meet on Tuesday again at the library. And if anyone feels like they want to join, please feel free. Any questions?
No, Baird, Blue Earth confirmed,
Oh, that's great.
with the folks. And
Awesome news.
what do you call it? USA Waste and Recycling. Well, actually, Murphy Road Recycling. They're looking to do it. They just don't have anyone confirmed yet. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's great news about Blue Earth.
Yeah.
And if the only thing we can do with Murphy Road is to do a tour, maybe 2 Saturdays, like the 16th of May or something like that, like 2 Saturdays after the fair.
Yeah.
I think that would be great, and see if we can, get some interesting people there and some of our elected officials to see how our recycling actually works, because I think it's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah. Yeah. They're still open to the tours.
Okay, great. Could you check to see if the 16th might work for them?
16.
And
Okay.
what the kind of upper limit of how many people we can bring is?
Yep.
Yeah. So for those of us who went on the last tour, Lydia was there and Joe was there. It's an amazing facility, and for those folks who haven't seen it yet, it's pretty eye-opening. So anyway, that's it for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to our agenda. I know, Baird, we're about to lose you. So do you have anything regarding the newsletter before you drop off?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's a mixed answer on that one. So we have a newsletter all ready to go on a energy efficiency campaign, and I just met with Mark Nelson for a little bit today, our town manager, and went through the contract that New England Smart Energy has proposed for working with us. And I think that the language, I know there were some questions just about making sure that there was language around choice and that people could use any contractor that they wanted. So I think we stated that more emphatically in the document, so it's really clear. And I think Mark was in the middle of a bunch of other stuff related to the budget, but he's going to take a look at it, and if he feels comfortable with it, I think he'll go ahead, and then the newsletter is basically ready to go out as soon as we get the go ahead from the town to go ahead with the energy efficiency campaign. So that's where we are.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else? We've completed the agenda and new business. I'm going to move into the ex officio reports, and then if there's anything else, we can touch on it in open forum. Who would like to kick us off for ex officio? Excellent. Thanks, Joe.
Just 2 quick things. The swap shop opens in about a month on April 4th. It'll be open 9 to 2, every Saturday during the summer and the fall. So any, spring cleanouts you're doing, if you have any adoptable items, bring them on down for an evaluation. And then just the other thing was, in 2026 here, it's almost reminding me of the 2008, 2009 time period where, when the iPhone came out and, smartphones came to be and everyone, started to have one. I kind of feel now in 2026, it's that way with AI. Everyone's using, right, these AI chatbots, more than, say a traditional search engine like Google, to figure out things. And the first time I used an AI chatbot, it helped me understand cryptocurrency. No matter how much I read about it, I could never understand it until I asked AI to explain it to me, like I was a 5-year-old initially. But I understood it. And now, just recently, I was using it to try to understand another murky subject, which is this municipal solid waste in Connecticut. And, specifically Simsbury and where it goes and, what its stops are and what its end destinations are. And, the companies involved in the contracts involved and, the government, et cetera. So I don't know. I guess I just wanted to say I'm still plugging along, trying to learn about municipal solid waste in Connecticut and, Simsbury specifically. So I know we have those that municipal solid waste plan and goals, that document. I guess, Jamie, we were looking
Yes,
to
we,
finalize that later.
if you and Jen and I touch base, I think that would be very helpful. Maybe we can, after this, we can set some time for the three of us to connect and we can move forward on that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It does look like you are the only ex officio member on at this time. I don't have any other reports submitted. We do have an agreement with the Economic Development Commission that they're going to be rotating members attending our meeting. I thought Mike Scorso was going to attend tonight, but I'm guessing maybe there had been a conflict. And then we do actually, I think it was just decided who the new Board of Ed representative is going to be, which would be Steve O'Brien. It looks like he was not able to attend today either, but hopefully we'll be able to join for our next meeting. And that is it as it relates to ex officio reports. Brings us to open forum. Does anyone have anything they would like to raise at this time? All right. If not, then I am looking for a move to adjourn the meeting.
Movement to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate the time. Lots to digest from that presentation earlier. I'm sure everyone's brains were moving in similar directions as mine when we're like, grocery store, ice skating rink. So it did seem very relevant for Simsbury potentially. So again, thank you. Have a great night and we will see each other next month.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education, and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret,
People have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SEM receives less revenue.
Even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government come together.